From the Detroit Free Press, I'm Robin Chan with today's voice briefing. It's Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. From music writer and critic Brian McCollum.
John Sinclair, the Detroit beatnik poet and counterculture icon, died Tuesday morning of heart failure. He was 82. Sinclair had been hospitalized at DMC's Detroit Receiving Hospital for 2 weeks before his death, his longtime publicist told the Free Press. Sinclair, a Flint native, was a fixture of the Cass Quarter and Ann Arbor art scenes, going on to manage the MC5 during that Detroit rock band's rise in the 1960s. He was famously imprisoned on marijuana charges in 1969, prompting international pushback and high-profile protests from celebrities such as John Lennon. His friend and longtime publicist Matt Lee described Sinclair as someone who, in his words, was on the forefront of so many things that are mainstream now. In recent decades, Sinclair maintained residences in Amsterdam and New Orleans, but ultimately settled back full-time in Detroit. He remained a public figure around town, taking on a prominent role during the ultimately successful campaign to decriminalize cannabis in Michigan. His survivors include 2 daughters and his ex-wife, photographer Lenny Sinclair.
This is J.C. Ryder with the Detroit Free Press. A new 154-unit apartment building has been proposed for Midtown Detroit. The building would be named The Landy in honor of the late Detroit developer and landlord Joel Landy, who once owned the building site. The site was one of 55 parcels of land that were sold off after Landy's death in 2020. The Landy building would face Woodward Avenue, just north of Little Caesars Arena. The project still needs a lot of approvals, but the developers are hoping to break ground next year and have the building open by late 2027.
This is Detroit Free Press auto critic Mark Phelan. I recently tested one of the first high-powered electric vehicle chargers in a network General Motors and Pilot Flying J travel centers are building across the country. It's located just south of Toledo, Ohio, and the charging island had 4 kiosks, each capable of delivering 350 kilowatts of power to an EV. They're called DC fast chargers because they charge vehicles much faster than the overnight chargers most EV owners have at home. The goal is to approach the time people spend stopped when they refuel at gas stations. Thousands of DC fast chargers already exist, but very few are on the high-traffic routes most people use when they drive a long way. Depending on the vehicle and other conditions, a DC fast charger can take a vehicle's battery from 10% to 80% in half an hour or less. GM and Pilot's goal is to provide reliable fast charging in a location that's secure, staffed 24 hours a day, and has amenities like food, free Wi-Fi, dog runs, and more. It all worked fine. The charger started on the first try, and I checked out the 24-hour restaurant, TV room, and other facilities. GM and Pilot plan to put charging islands in 200 travel centers on major routes nationwide.
Find more from the Detroit Free Press on freep.com. That's FREEP.com. Thanks for listening, and you'll hear more from us tomorrow.